keep it off-road.
Durban, one of South Africa's top tourist destinations and host city of the Zulu Rally, round 3 of the Sasol South African National Rally Championship, and doubling up as the 5th round of the FIA African Rally Championship. 43 crews from South Africa and the rest of the continent gathered for the ceremonial start at the Bay of Plenty before the event proper got underway on Saturday morning. Stage 1 was run at Sibaya, north of Durban, on gravel over just more than 11 kilometers.
First away, the Class S 2000 BP Volkswagen Polo of Jürgen Fecken and Piri Aris. One of the top pairings in South African rallying, Fecken and Aris were one of the favourites for an overall victory, which many consider to be long overdue. Top crews generally don't like being first on the road, as this means they play the role of sweeper, clearing the road for those to follow, and also setting a target time for their competitors to shoot at. Sure enough, Fecken and Aris were third fastest on stage 1.
Next up, former multiple champions Serge Damso and Robert Paisley in their Castrol Toyota Runex RSI. The veterans were determined to reverse their bad results in the previous round, the Sasol Rally, when they could only manage a 9th place finish in Class S2000. Perhaps surprisingly, Damso and Paisley finished the stage 1 second slower than the VW pair ahead of them on the road.
Another former championship-winning crew, Jan Habig and Douglas Judd, started stage 1 third on the road in their factory S2000 BP Volkswagen Polo. The sugarcane fields in this part of KwaZulu-Natal make for ideal rally stages and are popular with competitors and spectators alike. Habig and Judd suffered a disappointing non-finish in the previous round and were equally determined to reverse their fortunes. At the end of the stage, they went to the top of the standings by 3 seconds.
Reigning champions Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the third factory BP Volkswagen Polo took to the start of stage 1 fourth on the road. Lying second in the championship after the first 2 rounds, they needed a good result on the Zulu Rally in order to give their title defence some momentum. Perhaps they were just feeling the conditions out, ending stage 1 6th overall.
Next up, Etienne Lawrence and Andre Vermeulen in their team total Toyota Runex RSI. If anyone was determined to put up a strong performance on the Zulu Rally, none were more so than these two, who were penalised out of an overall victory in the Sasol Rally for a technical infringement of the regulations.
The first of the African Rally crews, Drivers' Championship leader Conrad Rautenbach from Zimbabwe and stand-in co-driver David Senior from Great Britain in their Subaru Impreza. Rautenbach had won the previous 3 rounds of the African Rally Championship. In the windless conditions, some competitors were beginning to suffer a dust problem. Rautenbach and Senior finished the stage 9th overall, but well clear of their competition in the separate title chase.
The second factory Castrol Toyota Runex, manned by Sasol Rally winners Johnny Gemmell and Peter Marsh. They were holding a tenuous 2-point lead in the championship over Kuhn and Hodgson, so a good result on the Zulu Rally would consolidate their position. They set the joint 4th fastest time in the stage, equal to teammates Damso and Paisley. Let's take a ride with them. Another team total pairing Jean-Pierre Damso and Cobus Frey in their Toyota Runex. After two solid results in the first two rounds of the championship, they were lying third overall, and a good result in this event could propel them closer to the top of the standings. The Western Cape-based pair struggled in this stage, however, ending it 13th fastest and 25 seconds off the pace set by Lourens and Vermeulen. Father and son pairing John and Douglas Williams, with Junior doing the driving duties, take the start of stage one in their Guma-sponsored X-Factory Class S2000 Volkswagen Polo. After a non-finish on the Sasol Rally, they too needed a change in fortunes. They went 8th fastest in stage one.
First of the Class N4 runners on the road, Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich in their Konica Minolta-backed Subaru Impreza STI. Wilkin was still suffering from a back injury caused by a crash on the Sasol Rally, but he was determined to overcome it and move up the leaderboard in the production car category. They won their class in stage one. Fernando Reuter and Gerard Snyman in their N4 Team Total Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 9, third in the production car championship after their victory in this category on the Sasol Rally. Visser Du Plessis and David Lefkovich in their N4 Pertex Subaru WRX STI after two solid results on top of the production car standings. They ended the stage fourth in class, 18 seconds off the pace set by Wilkin and Godrich.
Richard and Natasha Vaughan in their N4 Mitsubishi Lancer. From Zambia, Muna Singh and Dave Sihoka in their Subaru Impreza. Zimbabwean pairing Jamie White and Phil Arkinol in their Mitsubishi Evo 8. The first of the Class A7 cars on the road, Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin in their Castrol Toyota Runex. Leading the class championship comfortably after the first two rounds, they were looking for another solid result.
Their biggest opposition should come from local pairing Chris de Witt and Patrick Yende in the Team Total Toyota Runex. Adrian Karth and Des de Fortier in their A7 Net Connect Volkswagen Golf. Craig Trott and Carolyn Swan leading the Class A6 field in their Team Total Toyota Runex. Eugene Lourens and Derek Jacobs in their A6 Team Total Toyota Conquest. Rodney Fasaghi and Arno Lgranji were the first of the Class N3 runners in their Team Total Toyota Runex.
Mohamed Musa and Henry Dearlove pushing hard in their Class N3 Team Total Toyota Runex. Another Western Cape pairing, Etienne de Toy and Patrick Vermaak, likely frontrunners in Class N2 in their McCarthy Toyota Corolla. Leading the Class A5 Brigade Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin in their BP Volkswagen Golf. Chad Conradi and Alvin Kutsia in their A5 Techwood Toyota Taz.
So after stage one, Lourens and Vermeulen had a 7-second lead over Hubig and Judd, while Wilkin and Godrich were 5 seconds clear of Reuter and Snyman in N4. The first real challenge of the day came with stage two, a 30-kilometer long gravel affair that would test the crews to the limit and could well throw up some surprises. This, as well as the next three stages, all took place in the Inanda area, the focal point of which was a picturesque Inanda Dam. Competitors knew this could be make or break. Serge Damso and Robert Paisley trying hard to overcome the 11-second deficit behind Lourens and Vermeulen after the previous stage. Pushing hard, Fecken and Aries, but the VW pair was suffering from a problem in this stage.
We had a very good start, and then halfway through the stage we got severe fuel pressure problems. So I reckon we lost about a minute.
Hubig and Judd suffering from traction problems, also going as hard as possible, but they would end this stage fourth fastest. Jean-Pierre Damso and Kobus Frey. This helicopter shot gives a good idea of just how fast these drivers go. go joint sixth fastest in this stage.
It's a bit tricky, it's very loose, so took it a little bit easy in this stage.
Trying to capitalise on their early lead, Lawrence and Vermeulen were pushing hard too. A stage this long can make a huge difference, either through gaining or losing time to one's competitors. They set the second fastest time in this stage. Kuhn and Hodgson, 6th overall after stage 1, really put the hammer down in stage 2. They would win this stage, closing the gap to Lawrence and Vermeulen to only 2 seconds.
It's very slippery, so you're always thinking you're going slow, but I was happy with the car and it's fine.
Gemmell and Marsh, going for a repeat of their Sasol win, unfortunately struck a serious problem in stage 2. They had a broken cross member after clipping a bridge. That was the end of their rally, a serious blow for the championship leaders.
Stage 2 started off nicely going up the mountain, quite slippery. Then there was a bit of a cut on a bridge and caught the right front wheel on the edge of the bridge and it broke the cross member, so we couldn't go any further.
Defending production car champions Nicholas Ryan and Schalk van Heerden in their Bosel Subaru Impreza. They had a quiet first stage, but now the hammer was coming down. Ryan and van Heerden went second fastest in class N4 in this stage, propelling them up the leaderboard. Reuter and Snyman were also determined to get closer to the top, and they set the fastest time in the production car category in this stage. This took them to the top of the class standings, aided by a problem that cost Wilkin and Godrich about 4 minutes.
It just seems to be endless. It never ends. It's on and happen and happen.
Rotenbach and Senior were well ahead of the rest of the African Championship competitors after stage 1, and in stage 2 they consolidated that lead. Rotenbach is only 22, but he shows a lot of maturity in his driving.
We're battling a bit with this big old car, getting it around the tight stuff and had a really loose surface, so as soon as you come out of the corner you try to get on the power and it just steps out the whole time. It's really narrow and tricky, so we had I think we would have lost quite a lot of time there on the Super 2000s, so a bit nimbly on that, but anyway, yeah, I think we had a clean run in that, so no problems on that one.
Lawrence and Vermeulen were still leading, but by only 2 seconds from Kuhn and Hodgson, while in the production car category, Reuter and Snyman were just 1 second clear of Ryan and van Heerden. Stage 3 was another challenging one, as most stages on this event are, over 22 kilometres in the same area around the Inanda Dam. The organisers of the Zulu Rally had taken care to choose some of the most beautiful areas in KwaZulu-Natal to stage this event, but it also had to be accessible to spectators, who turned out in their numbers to enjoy the spectacle.
7th overall after the first 2 stages, Jean-Pierre Damso and Kobus Frey were keen to get higher up the order without taking too much risk. John and Douglas Williams, building on a growing reputation as a competitive privateer team, were 10th overall after stage 2 and also looking to improve. Damso Senior and Paisley 6th overall and trying to make up a 3-second deficit to Fecken and Aries. Reigning champions Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson were putting in everything to overcome the 2-second gap between them and rally leaders Lawrence and Vermeulen. They were certainly pushing. Let's join Fecken and Aries on board. great flying and some great camera work.
Becken and Aries pushed hard to make up some lost time. They seem to have solved their problems with traction and won stage 3, moving them up to second overall. Habig and Judd fourth overall after stage 2, and 37 seconds off the pace, were still struggling for grip as they tried to make up the deficit. After their non-finish in Mpumalanga, they desperately needed their little charge to get back on track. Rally leaders Lourens and Vermeulen, however, would end their rally in this stage with a broken gearbox input shaft. Ryan and Van Heerden probably pushed too hard to make up that single second that separated them from production car leaders Reuter and Snyman, and crashed out of the rally on this stage.
Du Plessis and Lefkovich, traditionally slow starters, were getting into their stride after a little off on the first stage. Reuter and Snyman were still ahead of the N4 pack, but had the Zimbabwean-British combination in their sights. Rautenbach and Senior were giving a good account of themselves, although there had been some rumblings about them being allowed to use the soft Pirelli tyres as per African rally regulations, but not available to South African competitors. And De Fortier third in Class A7 after stage 2, but only 8 seconds off second place De Wit and Yende on a charge. De Wit and Yende had a gap of 44 seconds to bridge to class leaders Cronje and Birkin. The championship leaders had everything under control, it seemed.
Mohamed Musa and Henry Dearlove in their Class N3 Team Total Toyota Ronex, fourth in class at this point. Fasaki and Lachransi, third in Class N3 after stage 2. Costa Kumantarakis and Barry White, surprise leaders in Class N3 in their Toyota Ronex. Craig Tross and Carolyn Swan, leading Class A6. The Class A5 Sasol Toyota Yaris of Claudio Piazza Musso and Greg Fierike, second behind Zulu and Peskin. Zambians Muna Singh and Dave Sihoka in their T. Madison Subaru Impreza, well down the order.
After 3 stages, Kuhn and Hodgson had taken over the lead, with Rautenbach and Senior moving up to second, well clear of the rest of the African competitors. Habig and Judd were 29 seconds behind their teammates, while Reuter and Snyman were comfortably ahead of Du Plessis and Lefkovich in Class N4. Cronje and Birkin were well clear of De Wit and Yende in A7. In A6, Trott and Swan held sway over Sali de Toy and Gert Jans van Rensburg.
Competitors would cover familiar ground, although grip levels would be substantially different after the entire field had passed through it earlier. We joined JP Damso and Quibitz Frey on board.
C1 for left. C240. The bad one, double caution space, left right over up, intermediate left right down.
The pair had about 30 seconds to make up and catch JP's old man for fifth overall, fourth among the South African competitors. They were going for it. The pair had had many successes, but an overall victory has eluded them so far. Watch JP using the handbrake lever to help the car change direction at speed. Damso Senior and Robert Paisley had 19 seconds to make up to catch Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Aries for third in the South African standings.
The Volkswagen crew really had the bit between their teeth and were taking time off the front runners in this stage. Spectators were loving it, and so were the competitors, now on familiar terrain. Visser Du Plessis and Dave Lefkovich were also beginning to make their presence felt among the Class N4 runners. Wilken and Godrich made a great comeback in this stage after their problems in Stage 3. Rottenbach and Senior buoyed by their strong showing so far. Tien Schubert and Lawrence Du Plessis in their Class A7 Volkswagen Polo.
Trott and Swan still leading Class A6. Stefan Wilken and Gert Nienaber in their A6 Panna Volkswagen Polo. Andy Haig-Smith and Eugene Leroux in their React-backed Toyota Corolla 4th in Class A6. Class N3 leaders Costa Kumantarakis and Barry White. Rodney Visagie and Arnu Legranzi chasing down the N3 leaders. Mohamed Musa and Henry Dearlove third in N3. In the superimposed shot, it's easy to compare speeds, and Serge Damso is slightly quicker than Jürgen Fecken on this section.
After Stage 4, the top 3 teams were covered by only 32 seconds, while Du Plessis and Lefkovich had taken over the lead in N4 after the demise in Stage 4 of early leaders Reuter and Snyman. Stage 5 was a repeat of Stage 3, and if the last 2 stages were anything to go by, the battle up front was going to intensify. The Zulu rally had already taken its toll. Who would be next? Dreaming of a rally career, perhaps? Fecken and Urries knew they had the machinery to challenge for a top spot and were going all out to make up the deficit of 18 seconds behind Serge Damso and Robert Paisley. At the same time, the Toyota crew only had 14 seconds to make up on Kuhn and Hodgson. Rottenbach and Senior had lost some time to the S2000 cars in the previous stage and were looking at catching up again.
Habich and Judd were still within striking distance of the front runners and were also pushing hard. Now, well inside the top 10, John and Douglas Williams were not far off the pace set by the works cars. Damso Jr. and Frey were having a steady rally, but they were gradually dropping off the pace at the front. Kuhn and Hodgson, however, had run into brake problems in the previous stage and would lose about a minute in Stage 5. Wilken was doing a remarkable job considering that he had been flat on his back for more than 3 weeks. But although he and Godrich were lying second in N4, they were a long way behind. Du Plessis and Lefkovich were able to control the pace at the sharp end of the production car category with almost 4.5 minutes in hand over Wilken and Godrich. Richard and Natasha Vaughan in their N4 Mitsubishi Lancer. Muna Singh and Dave Sihoka from Zambia.
Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin remarkably ahead of the N4 runners and comfortably in the lead of Class A7. Fourth in A7, Adrian Karth and Des de Fortier. Second in Class A7, Chris de Witt and Patrick Yende. Eugene Lawrence and Derek Jacobs lying second in Class A6. Stefan Wilken and Gert Nienaber fifth in A6. Fourth in A6, Andy Haig-Smith and Eugene LaRue in their Toyota Corolla.
Lying second in Class N3, Rodney Versace and Arno Legranti, about a minute down on Kumantarakis and White. About 20 seconds further back in N3, Mohamed Musa and Henry Dearlove. The class leaders were not putting a wheel wrong. The only runners left in Class N2, Etienne de Toy and Patrick Vermaak. Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin were back to second in Class A5. About 2.5 minutes behind Chart Conradi and Alvin Kutsia. Third in A5, Muzia Mabanga and Dani Strijdom.
At the end of stage 5, Damso and Paisley had taken the overall lead, 18 seconds clear of Fekken and Aries, while Cronier and Birkin was 7th overall and leading A7, with Duplessis and Lefkovich still ahead in N4. The final stage of day 1 was a repeat of the first stage, and competitors were aware that a sting in the tail often awaits the unwary at the end of a day's rallying. Nevertheless, the fight up front was intriguing. Duplessis and Lefkovich were determined not to get caught out in the day's final stage, but they did have a comfortable lead in the production car category and could control the pace. Nevertheless, they conceded about 20 seconds to Wilken and Godrich in this stage.
We started slow this morning, not because I wanted to, just took a while to catch a wake up, but it worked for us. The other guys were chasing and falling out, going off the road, breaking their cars, which has worked to our benefit.
The Sassel-backed Subaru crew had lost none of their competitiveness, despite some back pain still being endured by Charles Wilken, and they were going hard.
We didn't have a good day today. Struggled with some brake problems in stage 2 and 3. Had to drive with a handbrake for 2Ks, but going better now, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Conrad Rotenbach and David Senior were well on their way to another African Championship victory and were well within reach of the front runners. Overall and 6th in Class S2000, the impressive John and Douglas Williams.
We stayed out of trouble and we kept on the middle of the road. In the last stage now we pushed a bit, no, but we've got a strong car for tomorrow, so we're happy.
Jürgen Fekken and Pierre Aries could smell the lead and took 9 seconds out of the gap to the rally leaders. Let's join 6th place JP Damso and Kobus Frey for the final stage of the day.
Right, 3, the 7 open. And right 5, 90. 90 left, in over bump. And long 90 right open.
They would end the day in the same overall position, about 2.5 minutes off the pace.
We had a clean run today. Maybe a little bit too cautious, but we'll give it a go tomorrow.
Jan Hubik and Douglas Judd, 5th overall at the beginning of this stage, made up one position by getting past teammates Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson. Hubik knows this area like the back of his hand.
Bit of niggly goodies that's costing us time, so the guys are going to work on it now and hopefully it'll be alright for tomorrow.
Kuhn and Hodgson ran into some problems in this stage, dropping about a minute and ending the day 5th overall.
Very hard day. We lost our brakes and power steering through most of the day, and we lost about 2 minutes.
Rally leaders Serge Damso and Robert Paisley kept cool heads despite the onslaught of the young Volkswagen crew, but a penalty for lateness would drop them to 2nd overall.
We had a bad start this morning, but need to get things together now.
Jürgen Fecken and Piri Aries ended day one on top of the standings, courtesy of a 20-second penalty to Damso and Paisley, with Rotenbach and Senior 3rd overall. In N4, Duplessis and Lefkowitz had a comfortable lead over Wilkin and Godrich. Sasaki and Lachranzi had a narrow lead in N3 over early leaders Kumantarakis and White. Cronje and Birken had things completely under control in Class A7, as did Trott and Swan in Class A6. While in A5, Zulu and Peskin had retaken the area. Stage 7 was a brand new one over just more than 15 kilometres, sure to test the competitors to the limit. The sun rose over the 29 remaining crews who would tackle a day sure to hold many surprises, perhaps none more so than for the residents and workers of the town of Richmond, who were no doubt used to a much more leisurely pace of life.
Jürgen Fecken and Per Aries in their BP Volkswagen Polo led the field away again, holding an 18-second lead over the remainder of the field.
Into long right 6 Titans. And long left 8 Titans. Possible mud and water. Right 6 Titans. Long left 7, again possible mud and water. Left 8, C80, small crest, right 1, and right 3.
Next away, Serge Damso and Robert Paisley in the Castrol Toyota Runex. They were in a good position to improve their place in the championship standings. But for the multiple champions, 2nd position is never good enough, and one of Serge's legendary final day charges was definitely on the cards. John and Douglas Williams in the Guma Volkswagen Polo, 9th overall overnight, but 8th among the South African competitors, were determined to have a strong second day. It soon became clear, though, that the dust was going to become a big problem on the day.
Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson in the second of the factory BP Volkswagen Polos found themselves down in 6th position overnight, almost 2 minutes down on their teammates at the front, and an almost impossible task of catching up in the limited stage distance still remaining. JP Damso and Quibus Frey in the Team Total Toyota Runex, 4th among the South Africans, had a choice: drive conservatively and maintain position, or go all out and risk losing it all. With dust becoming a problem early on, the first option was the most sensible. Jan Habitz and Douglas Judd in the 3rd factory BP Volkswagen Polo were only 20 seconds down on the leading African Championship crew. But they also knew holding station would see them finish on the podium among the South Africans. 3rd overall and leading the African Rally Championship standings, Konrad Rotenbach from Zimbabwe and Peter Senior from Great Britain. Remaining where they were in relation to their competitors would put them within reach of clinching this year's title.
2nd in Class N4 overnight, Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich in the Sasol Subaru Impreza STI. All they could hope for was that something would go wrong with the class leaders. You never stop trying in this game. Production car championship leaders, Fisser Duplessis and Dave Lefkowitz in the creepy-crawly Pertec Subaru WRX STI were not, however, planning on falling into that trap. They had almost 6 minutes to play with. After a quiet day one, the Verlaak sisters, Lola and Megan, were determined to bring their Team Total Subaru Impreza home in one piece. The giant killers, Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin in their Class A7 Castrol Toyota Runex, aiming to maintain at least their 7th place on the road and 6th overall.
Well, down the order and almost getting it wrong there, Theuns Joubert and Laurens du Plessis in their A7 Volkswagen Polos. Second in A6 overnight, the team total Toyota Ronex of Craig Trott and Carolyn Swan. Mohamed Musa and Henry Dearlove third in N3 in their team total Toyota Ronex. Leading class N3, Rodney Versace and Arno Legranzi in another team total Toyota Ronex. And still the only runners in N2, Etienne de Toy and Patrick Vermaak in their McCarthy Toyota Corolla. Second in class A5 overnight, Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin in their BP Volkswagen Golf. More than a minute ahead in A5, Chad Conradi and Alvin Coetzee in their Techwood Toyota Taz.
The only KZN regional runners left on the field, Bertus Labuschagne and Lou Zietsman in their VW Golf. Third in the African Championship classification, Chase Atwell and Gareth Thor from Zimbabwe in their Mitsubishi Lancer. After stage 7, Fecken and Aries had extended their lead, with Reichenbach and Senior now slotting into 2nd position. Cornier and Birkin were still leading A7, and Duplessis and Lefkovich class N4. Stage 8 in the same area around Richmond was to be a real tester, where many a fortune could change for the better or worse. Over 45 kilometres, competitors would have to keep their wits together. John and Douglas Williams had certainly made some people sit up and take notice this season. In only their 3rd rally in the superfast class S2000, they have proved well and truly competitive, with the youngster showing maturity beyond his years and experience. At the end of the previous stage, they had made up another position, now lying 8th on the road and 7th overall.
Another pairing with a bright future ahead of them, this season in a proper works car for the first time, JP Damso and Cobus Frey. They've had many successes over the years, improving all the time, and that first overall win in this class cannot be too far away. One of the veteran pairings in South African rallying, former champions Jan Habig and Douglas Judd, have lost none of their speed, but the dust problem meant they could not mount a serious challenge. A similar problem was facing reigning champions Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson, so they have probably decided by now to settle for a 5th place finish. Damso and Robert Paisley, winners of the opening round of this year's Sasol South African Rally Championship, were on their way to another solid result, which would do their title aspirations no harm at all.
The only crew with no dust problems were Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Aries, so they could control the pace on their way to potentially their first overall victory. Still going strong, albeit down the order, the rally chicks Lola and Megan Verlaak, the only all-woman crew in South African rallying. After their disaster in the previous event, Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich were well on their way to a solid points finish in Class N4. Second among the African rally competitors, Muna Singh and Dave Sihoka from Zambia. They were lying second to last overall. Richard and Natasha Vaughan were looking at bringing their Mitsubishi Lancer home in one piece, even though they had the handicap of an additional air brake. Melissa du Plessis and Dave Leshkovich had given up an overall position after the previous stage, but they were focusing on bringing their Subaru home first in the production car category. Often plagued by niggly problems in the past, the Zulu Rally had been plain sailing for them. Conrad Rotenbach and Peter Senior had moved up to second overall behind Fecken and Aries after stage 7, just 46 seconds down, but it was doubtful whether they'd be able to close that gap.
After 8 stages, Fecken and Aries had a lead of more than a minute over Rotenbach and Senior, with Danso and Paisley another 30 seconds back. In N4, du Plessis and Lefkowitz had extended their lead over Vulcan and Godrich. Musa and Dearlove had gone to the top of the N3 standings over Sasaki and Lachranzi. The remarkable Cronje and Birkin were light years ahead of Kauf and De Fortier in A7. Trott and Swan were also comfortably ahead of Lawrence and Jacobs in Class A6. For one, the dust made it difficult to attack, and for two, this close to home, only the brave or the foolish would take a serious chance.
Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich had not given up hope yet and were still pushing hard to try and force the N4 leaders into a mistake. Conrad Rotenbach and Peter Senior more than a minute away from the overall lead. John and Douglas Williams back to 8th on the road and 9th overall. Kuhn and Guy Hodgson, third in the South African classification and on course for a solid podium finish. Rally leaders Jürgen Fecken and Pierre Aries. They have come close before, but this time it could just happen. No change in the order after stage 9, with Fecken and Aries extending their lead over the rest of the field. Further back, the Williams pair had moved ahead of N4 leaders du Plessis and Lefkovich again.
The final stage, a repeat of stage 8, and it was a huge ask for the crews to ensure that they bring the bacon home over a distance of 46 kilometers. Costa Kumantarakis and Barry White could well cause an upset, as they were only 4 seconds behind the Class N3 leaders going into the final stage.
Coming into this last stage, Rodney and myself were chasing 4 seconds for the lead. He broke down in stage, so we backed right off. We lost probably 4 minutes driving so slowly, but I think we've won it.
Never challenged in the Class N2 battle, mainly because there was no one around. Etienne de Toy and Patrick Vermaak of Cape Town.
Yesterday we had a little bit of terminal problems, and it looks like we sorted that out. Car cuts out now and then, but otherwise it was alright. A little bit rough during the day. First stage rough, this stage also quite rough. It's quite hard on the cars. It's a 45k stage, so you have to pace yourself on your brakes and your tyres.
Craig Trott and Carolyn Swan drove sensibly to score their first points of the season, and that with victory in Class A6.
Today pretty much wasn't sticking our necks out and staying on the road and making sure we get to the end, and that's exactly what we've done.
Comfortably on their way to a Class A5 victory, disaster struck for Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin when a puncture cost them too much time in the final stage.
As you can see, we had a flat tire in the last stage, probably about 12 k's from the end. We tried to look after it, tried to push, but unfortunately this has cost us the rally by 20 seconds.
After a brave effort, Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich made the finish and scored valuable championship points in the process.
No, we didn't have a good day. Like yesterday, you know, sore back, struggling a bit. Just here to get some points, but at least the last stage seems to go well, so we'll be back for the next one.
After a controlled drive, the N4 and production car victory went to Pretoria pairing Visser Du Plessis and Dave Leskovich, despite some superficial body damage.
Well, we finished. It seems like we won production cars. We almost messed it up in the previous stage. We bent the control arm. The last 2 minutes, car was going like a spider, sideways, and my navigator hit me. So this time we took it careful, but still went nice and fast.
Another impressive performance by John and father Douglas Williams. Despite a penalty and a puncture along the way, saw them finish 8th overall.
You know, the main thing is I've learned so much in the car, and I'm feeling a lot happier in the car. Yeah, I just think it was a great day. It was tough, hard work, a tough last stage, but yeah, no, everything, the car's strong, so happy.
The giant-killing performance of the event came from A7 runners Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin, finishing 6th overall in the South African classification.
We had a couple of gremlins again, but yeah, it just panned out for the better.
5th overall were local hero Jan Habich and Douglas Judd, who could not make up the deficit they suffered early in the event.
We hit a bank and then bent some suspension parts, which we had to change, and then we had a problem with the power steering, so we did a 45k and a 15k without power steering, so tough to have to offer, but we're at the end, and yeah, we're happy.
Fourth among the South Africans after a solid if unspectacular drive, Jean-Pierre Damso and Cobus Frey.
Good run up until now. We just had a punch here in the last stage. It cost us over a minute, so I just hope we can still keep position, so we'll work it out now quickly.
On the podium and keeping their championship hopes alive, Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson.
The car felt strong and fast, but because we lost some time, we couldn't really go for the win, you know. So we had to settle for the points. But all in all, well, and I'm happy for Hurgen, teammate, to win it.
Serge Damso and Robert Paisley finished 3rd overall and 2nd in the South African classification, a result that elevated them to the top of the championship standings.
It went well. We didn't have major problem. It was just a bit tougher, these long stages, but everything seems to get together, and quite nice to be finished.
Second overall and taking the African Rally victory, Conrad Rotenbach and Peter Senior.
We lost a bit of time to Fecken, but we were beating Serge consistently, so that's good for us. We came here to try win the African Championship, and so we did, so 2nd overall is good.
But not as good as the overall victory. For the first time in his career, that honour went to Hurgen Fecken and Pierre Ari.
We had a problem in the second stage, and I thought the rally was over, and then we got back. We got into the lead today, and it seemed to have helped us. We pulled away from everybody. We had a very good event.
So Fecken and Ari take their first overall victory, almost 2 minutes ahead of the rest of the field, ahead of Damso and Paisley and Kuhn and Hodgson in the South African classification. In Class N4, Rotenbach takes it, but the South African victory goes to Du Plessis and Leskovich. The Class N3 winners are Komantarakis and White. Cronier and Birkin are the only finishers in Class A7. A6 goes to Trott and Swan ahead of Lawrence and Jacobs, while Conradi and Kutsia snatched the A5 win in the final stage.
To the victor go the spoils, and the podium celebrations were certainly exuberant, and the taste of champagne sweet.
The car is very good at the moment, and I enjoy the pace notes, and we're going well together. We're working very well in the car, me and Pierre. So yeah, hopefully we can do that on the next one as well.
On the African continent, but with